Hello and welcome to the June 5th garden walkthrough. First, I want to show you this hackberry, which is a nuisance tree where I come from, but it's a native tree here. You can see this front garden bed with the dogwood in full flower and the roses just starting to come up, and all of those lavenders. It was a beautiful year for the dogwood. Even though the dogwood seems to die back a little each winter, it's still a nice year. All of these roses I have started from cuttings. These are Navy Lady roses, which I have in the back, and you can see the mother plant behind there. That's Abraham Darby rose. Lovely David Austin rose, very fragrant. Tends to ball up in the rain and very thorny. So I wouldn't actually recommend it, but it's a lovely rose. I enjoy it quite a bit, even if it wouldn't be my first choice these days. Smells wonderful. And that's the original Navy Lady. And then over here we have one of the Ito peonies. And I've got the air conditioning covered up. And here's some grasses that I have blocking some utilities. And the whole point of that front bed was to really cover up some of the things I didn't like in the foundation bed. These were the spring planters. I have since changed them. And you can see this lollipop Ito peony. It wasn't doing very well this year. That one's fine. The lavender's looking good. Starting to come up. Just a little driveway side bed that is quite a challenging space, actually. And that's a smoke bush, which has gotten way too big. This is the side return back entry. You can see the smoke bush, which had to be cut back during our renovation. And I'm really quite proud of this side return. This used to be a very bright, hot space, but since we put in the extension, it is now a very, very shady area. So I've made it as jungle-like as possible with all of these ostrich ferns and Solomon seal, hostas. There's the dog, bleeding heart. Got the extension air conditioning covered up. And that is a false hydrangea vine, Moonlight. Really love that one. As you can see, I'm very fond of ferns. There's Lady in Red here, as well as Japanese fern and autumn fern and the ostrich fern. Lady's mantle, a new rose. And this is interesting. When I filmed this, I had just covered this downspout with some chicken wire, and it is now a trellis, which works really well, I think. Okay, so they're the currant bushes, which as of recording this in July are covered in currants, but when I took this image are just starting to come into fruit. And you can see the two roses there. The red one is actually my neighbor's. And this is the Paradise Garden, this little space here I call the Paradise Garden. And then the livestock tank across there. So the point of the Paradise Garden was to have something to look out of the windows of the main bedroom. And that's the view. And that is, again, late spring. And that's been changed out since with the fountain in between. And this particular bed has Hinoki cypress and the Boscobel rose by David Austin. Just a gorgeous rose. So this bed, aside from the rose, is white. So it also has a Guernsey, what's that called? Not Guernsey cream, but the new Guernsey one, clematis, and then rattlesnake master. And all of the beds have lavender and boxwood. And here we are getting closer to Boscobel. The hinoki used to be on another part of my garden, and it really suffered there, so it's starting to recover. And then over here we have an elderberry, lemony lace elderberry. And the color of this bed is yellow, with the exception of the rose. The rose is Rose de Retz. And I planned for this to actually be light pink, but it's dark pink. And you'll see that I have, at this point, a whole bunch of branches coming up from the rootstock, which is the multiflora rootstock. So obviously I've cut those back now, but that really surprised me. And you can tell the difference in the foliage there, the multiflora foliage versus the regular rose foliage. It's totally different. Should have realized, didn't realize until it started blooming. And this was before I cut it all back. But you can see how beautiful the Rose de Retz, which is an old rose, very strongly fragrant, just gorgeous. And I do have a clematis, a light pink clematis going through that as well. And in this next bed, which features a Persian ironwood, Persian spire tree, that is the Duke de Cambridge rose. And it is super fragrant, thorny monster, and I have tied it in to itself very tightly because it threw out canes that were, 3 meters. And there's a Leastris that was eaten by bunnies, very annoyingly. Made me really mad. So the colors of that bed are hot pink and purple. So we have a lot of dark hellebores, and it goes into the next bed, which is peach. So you get a little bit of peach there too. And that's a Rogersia, which has been eaten by the rose. I didn't expect the rose to be as big as it is. So we'll see how the Rogersia does. That's Rogersia peacock with the dark bronzy foliage. And that's Sun King Aurelia, and then the pot at the end. You can see the chives and the lavender, the ground orchid, and the gladiolas. And then in the next bed, we have the colors are peach and blue, and we have Rose Grace and Geranium Roseanne, Pinstem and Dark Towers. And there's a very beautiful and unique Magnolia Coppertalica. This is supposed to be a dwarf magnolia. It's never been tested in my zone. I'm in zone 5 outside of Toronto, and it's unlikely that it will survive many winters, but this winter was really, really easy. So it came through it in flying colors. It was covered in buds, and then I came out to admire it one morning, and a squirrel had eaten all of the flowers. Apparently they taste like cucumbers, and squirrels really like them. That happened to my deciduous one as well. So we'll see. I may never get a bloom on it. But there's Grace. It is really an exquisite rose. Just so beautiful. This light, light peach. Starts darker and opens lighter. I need to straighten out that tree some. So this is Benjamin Britten rose that has jumped out of its obelisk and gone into the apple tree. It's supposed to be a very short climber, but actually it's not at all. It's a rambler for me. And you can see here some hascaps. Now the birds and squirrels have already been at the hascaps here, so I don't see any. But you can see what a beautiful bush it is, really. It's a lovely blue-green foliage. Quite beautiful. And there's a clematis. I'm not sure which one that is. And there's the currants. The currants are now, this first week of July, we're harvesting them. They're just so beautiful. They're red. And then that's Westerland and the neighbor's red rose. So Westerland is a lot more orange than I anticipated. It's basically day glow fluorescent orange, which makes my little 80s girl heart go pitter patter. It's very, very vibrant, and it shows up as the light's falling too. It's really amazing. And then these just came through the fence, so I kind of tied it to the fence in this circle and got all of these beautiful flowers from it. It was not the combination I was expecting, but that happens in gardening. And then you see my willow dome. Willow Dome was the last project we did before lockdown. I'm very attached to it. Although the back of it is completely dead. We have a dead space in the garden. Everything that I've planted there dies, including willow, which is kind of hard to kill. But the front of it is beautifully alive. I need to weave it, obviously. And I have just planted a native clematis there, which hopefully will integrate with the willow dome and cover it in blooms. That's the goal. And then on the other side, I have the rose zephyrine, which is thornless and grows in shade, which is why I put it there. And it smells wonderful. So I don't anticipate that giving me a lot of flowers because it's in shade, but it is a lovely, lovely rose. And you can see the bench that my late husband made me, so I can sit in my willow dome and look out at the sky and at the garden with the branches above me. Weaving the willow dome is one of the most relaxing jobs I have in the garden. I really enjoy doing it. And you may be wondering why I haven't given that, but there's a lot of other work to do as well. See the dog coming up, and the lettuce, and the weeds. So this bed has really been attacked by the resident bunny, and there was parsley here in the front, and all of that is completely gone. Oh, look, there's some stems, but mostly gone. Apparently, rabbits don't like arugula, but they like lettuce and peas, and all of that's just gone, gone, gone. And then we have walking onions and some garlic as well. Another hascap. I think this one actually has berries left on it. Let's look. Yes, it does. There you go. So that's what they look like. They're almost ripe there. They still have a little bit of red instead of blue. They taste like a cross between a raspberry and a blueberry. I strongly recommend them if you're in a cold climate. They're a wonderful berry. They don't require acid soil. The horrible Canada thistle, we have that all over the garden. It's gotten much worse. So that's the Graham Thomas rose. Beautiful, beautiful rose. And I've got the Clematis Parisienne growing through it. Graham Thomas has a wonderful scent as well. Beautiful fragrance. And here's the Clematis. And now you see my espaliered peach tree with the asparagus in front of it. Asparagus, of course, is done, so I've allowed it to grow up. The espaliered peach tree has never actually given me a peach because the squirrels get to it first. It is a squirrel superhighway. But it does look very pretty. Maybe someday I'll get a peach. I'm not going to count on it, though. So this is right after I've planted the tomatoes, and I've got some shredded cardboard as mulch. These are dwarf tomatoes from the Dwarf Tomato Project, so they won't get very big, but definitely bigger than that. And we've got some on the other side as well. More currants, a couple of raspberries, a whole bunch of currants, a magnolia back there. And then this bed has the hot peppers in it and weeds. And then the next bed has potatoes. And we haven't been able to grow potatoes for a few years because we had Colorado potato beetle. And the treatment for that is you just stop growing potatoes for at least 2 years, and we skipped 3. So hopefully we won't have the potato beetle this year. And you see blackberries. We have blackberries all over the place. North Pole, arborvitae, and the compost, which was rebuilt by the Handy Brothers. And you get a big glimpse of that blackberry patch, which had almost died back, and then a tree came down at my neighbor's, and now it's back in full. And slender silhouette sweet gum, which was my Mother's Day present last year. The apple tree that has Benjamin Britten growing in it. You can see some of the beautiful trees that my neighbor has, which serve as some of the backdrop. And then I've created these arches this year. And so far the rabbit's eaten everything there, so nothing's growing yet. I have lady's mantle and Navy Lady roses, and that's Carefree Beauty pink roses behind it. And this is the area, not counting the livestock tank, this is the area that we did during the first lockdown. And all of those roses are from cuttings, every single one of them. And then this was added on when we put on the addition. We created this box to kind of integrate it in. And it should actually be a shade planting, but I made it a sun planting. So we'll see how that goes. And this is Eden Rose with Geranium Roseanne. You can see how much this is a workspace in early June. I have everything out, everything in the middle before I get it all planted. Chili says hi. That's the pot I do floating flowers in. There's Dr. Huey, which is a rootstock rose, but it is really spectacular when it blooms, so I keep it. My sour cherry tree. New pot this year for floating flowers. You can see the ditch lilies to the right. Can't get rid of them once you have them. They're really quite a bad invasive species, so try to get rid of them if you can, but good luck. Another apple tree. All the Navy Lady roses before they come into bloom. They're a little bit later than everything else. And there's Carefree Beauty. Isn't that the most amazing shot? It's just such a gorgeous rose. So it has this first flush, and then it waits a while, and it blooms really pretty nicely for the rest of the year. It's quite an impressive, beautiful rose. You'll see the end of the peonies. That's Magical Mystery Tour. And this, I think, is Duchess of Cornwall clematis growing through that rose, which is Julia Childs. And, I just get random asparagus coming up. And this is a newly planted John Davis rose with a clematis, a purple clematis. I don't remember which one growing through it. So eventually, that's a very aggressive hardy rose, and eventually that will take over most of that fence. It's just to give you that particular view. And then turn around and you can see the trees from the neighboring space.